Can I please invite Professor Luiz Marcelo to come and present. If I can give a brief introduction about Professor Luiz Marcelo, PhD management candidate at Birkbeck.
His first line of the...
Oh, sorry, I do apologize. Professor Luiz Marcelo is a senior advisor of the Brazilian government. He's also a PhD management candidate at Birkbeck, University of London, with sponsorship from federal government of Brazil. In the lines of research, it was the impact of conditional cash transfer of development, the case of Brazilian Bolsa Familia in the city of Guaribas. He's also a visiting scholar at the Institute of Latin American Studies of Columbia University in New York, with sponsorship from the federal government of Brazil. Professor Luiz Marcelo is also president of the Association of Brazilian Research and Students in the United Kingdom,
Ahed. Actually, now vice president. I was the president in the last term.
Okay.
And now vice president.
He's the vice president. Yeah. So he's also a fellow of the LEAD, LEAD program, member elected of Fellowship Council of Getúlio Vargas Foundation, member of Government Schools of Education Board, Executive Director elected of the Institute of Government Research and Studies. He's also delegate elected on UNICAM's Economics Institute of the UNICAM, sorry.
Institute of Economics.
Institute of Economics, yeah. Delegate elected of UNICAM's General Council, and finally Financial Director elected of UNICAM's Human Science Institute in Student Center. Okay.
Yeah.
Have I missed anything?
Yeah, it's actually this is my whole history. It's not that I'm everything you know today. But yeah, that's
okay. Good. If I missed anything, please.
Okay.
So
the
also yours.
Talk. Actually, I'm gonna share some. I got 30 minutes, right?
So do we have a problem with the...
Well, just I just like to have an idea about the time. Okay, good presentation. Anyway, the idea is to share some data with you regarding the last 20 years in Brazil, the social development, social advances, and finishing with some the challenges. What's challenges ahead?
Sorry, Luis, we better leave them to solve that. I promise you, this is not Chilean sabotage. That's it. Is that the one?
It's no.
Yeah, this is a block.
This is not the one.
No, this is a block.
Okay.
That one. This one? Yeah. I'm going to talk about, share with you some data regarding the advances in Brazil in the last 20 years, and mainly the social advances, although I'm going to talk a little bit about economics and politics. political advances also, because they are interrelated. And the challenges ahead, well, it's just some very particular opinion, and actually I'm more interested in hearing your thoughts about no problem. Yesterday, when I was preparing finishing the presentation, I was using actually 4 different operational systems: the old and the new Apple, old and new Windows, and the Open Office. So yesterday was a mess. Oh my God, no. But okay, this is just to for those who are not so. Brazilian in details. There's a concentration. This is a demographic map. We can see that there's a concentration in the coast and in some big cities, the capitals. Here, Salvador, Rio, São Paulo, Porto Alegre. There's a concentration of people and poverty. Most of the poor people in Brazil live in the big cities, metropolitan areas actually. And another social difference can be related to the regional aspect. Here is the poorest area, of course, general terms. This is income per capita. 46 to 49% of the population live with less than a minimum wage. This is in 2006. Okay, so half of the population in this region, in this yellow region, live with less than half of the minimum wage. The opposite is in the south and in the central area. Just a little bit of economy. We had hyperinflation in the 80s. That was tackled in the government of Itamar Franco. It was in 1993, 94. Then it's like an evolution of the economic debate in Brazil. In the 80s, we used to talk a lot about inflation. All the headlines were about inflation. Then after that, there was the stabilization process during the government of Cardoso. It's like fear of inflation, but on the other hand, what lies ahead. Then growth and social inclusion during the government of Lula. And I put steady growth. It's a concept in economics theory that's the increase of the economy following the increase in population. So it would be a kind of a balance between both. It would be the economy functioning in a perfect situation. Actually, I don't like much this concept, and actually in the next presentation I'm going to change them, put it out. I prefer development, and in many senses. Hyperinflation was like this after the Plano Real. There was, you can see, like in 90 was almost 2,000%, but after the Plano Real, we had finally inflation in real levels and in the natural, common, regular levels. A little bit of politics. We have the military dictatorship. Then 1998, the Constitution. So we have two important moments in the economy. The end of inflation. In the politics, the new Constitution. We have as a consequence of both the social development of Brazil is linked with both the constitution and the end of inflation. End of inflation because the poor people are that suffer the most with inflation. And in the case of the constitution, there are obligatory transfers to the health and education sectors. So this is obligatory. And then there's this increase in the public expenditure and social policies related to the GDP. And also in the politics there was a trend of parties, a bend to the left. First the Social Democrats with Cardoso, then the Labour Party with Lula, and now with President Dilma. And so there's an increase for both the constitution obligation to transfer a percentage from the GDP, from the government budget, and also the natural band of the leftist parties to invest more in the social area. Minimum wage, this is a very important policy to tackle the social problems in Brazil. You can see here indoor purchase power parity per day. We can see here from 2001 there's an increase. This increase in the minimum wage was higher than the increase in inflation. So there was a gain, a real gain in the income for a part of the population that was classes C and D and E. There was a spread of the impact on those classes. Unemployment rate and GDP growth. Even if the GDP growth is highly irregular, actually in our history you have like some few days increasing and then down. It's rarely in the last century after the Second World War had a longer period, but usually we have a very irregular rates of GDP growth. But in this case, it's irregular but positive. In the 90s, it used to be around 0, 4% negative, and this was sufficient to decrease the unemployment rate. Of course, there are more things related to that, but we can see that there's a connection. This inequality measured by the Gini coefficient is the 80s. This is the average Gini during this period, 1977. This is the 80s. It's very irregular. This moment here, the high Gini coefficient, for those that are not so aware, Gini coefficient measured the inequality. So the higher the Gini, the higher the inequality. This is the peak of the inflation. So the inequality was in its peak because most of the poor population had no conditions to save their money in bank accounts, and so they lost their income power. This is the end of the inflation, but after that there was an increase. There was an immediate effect due to the end of inflation, but during the 90s the Gini was around this average line we didn't have much improvements. Then began this, the curve began to fall down. This is due to mainly to the transfers, cash transfers from the government. First with the Bolsa Escola, Cartão Gás, policies to transfer cash, focused programs, policies to the poor. And so there was an immediate effect. And this trend here is due to mainly to the Bolsa Familia, because of there was a huge increase in the budget for those programs to focus on the poor. Just a moment. You can see here is 2000, 2001, from 2002 and 3, there is this change, a different trend that keeps improving. Here we have retail sales, real domestic retail sales. This is 2003. You can see very bad, but in yellow, retail sales. This December. And unseasonal retail sales is can you see the blue here? Yeah, it's unseasonal retail sales. You can see that there is an inflection in the curve. And for hyper supermarkets, and we can see that the curves there are some peaks, but they are very irregular. But from 2003, they begin to increase. This is that supermarket, hypermarket, furniture. Furniture is the most impressive. The change. These are the areas that are more impacted for this kind of policies, both minimum wage and focused policies. The impact is immediate in supermarket because people begin to buy food, more food, even food. Many of them had no access to the market. Now, comparison of growth and inequality. The 80s, this is the Plano Cruzado, that's our history, this is 0. So this is the growth of GDP. We can see that it's very regular and with some good moments, but some close to 0. These moments, it's still irregular, as I said. This is a financial crisis, but the average is 3.5. So in these 2 years. So this moment of economic growth is not fantastic, but 3%, 4% was sufficient to be related to this curve, which is poverty and extreme poverty. We can see that again that it's very irregular. Used to be more or less the same without changes during the 90s, but then there's a change after 2002, 3, mainly the government Lula and the focused policies. And here's the inequality, again, measured by the Gini. Don't pay much attention in the figures. I did this graph, so I'm not good in using the PowerPoint, but this is the Gini. You read like it's 0.50 Gini. It's not 50%. Okay, Gini is around 50, going to 60. But then after here, there's a movement down. So the inequality is falling down. Average increase rate of household income per capita. in this period, 2001 to 2008. In this period, this was the increase in the income for the first decile of the population. These are the 10% richer, and those are the 10% poorer. So we can see that the growth of Brazil benefited the most the income of the poor part of the population. Percentage of population living under $1.25 PPP per day. Again, it's diminishing the poverty, and there's an inflection around here again, 2001, 2, 3. This is to show the importance of the focused programs and the minimum wage in the changes, in the social changes in Brazil. A little bit of the Bolsa Família was launched in 2003. It reaches 12.65 million families. It's the biggest in the world, and for almost 50 million people. $7.6 billion. Around that, the currency exchange rate has changed a lot, but around that. And two main objectives: reduce current poverty and inequality, and avoid future poverty. In this, the first objective, in my opinion, well, in the opinion of many people, the results are very positive. But regarding avoiding future poverty, that's the main problem of the program. Not because of the program, but because of it needs a good educational system. Just to mention one point, and we don't have a good educational system. Okay, conditionalities, the people are obligated to keep the children in school and attend health exams, and it's a benefit, an average per household of $52.50 per family per month. Okay. It's not much. The average household is 4 people, so it's around 12.5 per person per month. It's not much, but it was responsible for all those changes in the whole situation. Well, this could be a situation of a family, a typical family in the Northeast. They're very poor. I've been 10 years ago. I've been there last year. The situation changed radically. I'm not saying that there's no poverty or extreme poverty, or of course there are people living like this. But this usually to be the common situation. It changed. The situation has changed a lot. It's different. Just some say that it's only 0.5% of GDP, so the impact wasn't that strong. But the transfer of the Bolsa Família in the first year, now the budget is much higher, but in the first year represented 7% of the budget of the state of Alagoas, 8% of state of Bahia. These are the states of Northeast, the poorest region. So this is the percentage related to the budget of the government. So in this case, 12% of the government. So the impact is huge, even if not for the whole country. For the poorest region, it really makes a difference. So some impacts. We have 4% of the reduction of inequality between 2001 and 4 due to the Bolsa Família. This is the specific part, and if you want, I can provide the complete references later. Okay, 21% of the reduction of inequality between 2004 and 6 So we can see, the increase in the budget, the impact was huge. Same thing for the extreme poverty, 8%, and 18% of the poverty gap. Poverty gap is established a line of poverty. Those who are above the line are not poor, but below the line is the poor people, and that is the average of income of the poor, and the gap is the difference of the poverty line and the income of the poor. There was the diminution of this gap in 18%. 4.3 million out of 12.4 million, this is the total of the households, okay? And 4.3 overcame came the poverty line due to the benefits. And 48% average increase in the monthly income of the house among the beneficiaries. So this is the impact on the household's income. In the darker area, the impact is 85% of increase of those households, the benefit increasing 85%. So this explains all the changes that we saw in furniture, supermarket, poverty, and all the changes. And we see how focused, how well is the focus, how well established is the program in terms of focus. Oops, sorry. This, in terms of health, this is the gap in weight deficit among children. So the darker the area, the bigger is the gap between the Health World Organization. Is this correct? Health World whatever. Yeah,
World Health Organization.
Yeah. That's it. And in the average weight in Brazil. Look, in this darkest area, the gap used to be between 12 and 20%. It's a huge difference. But situation, since 2006, 7, 8, 9, and you can see how fast is the improvement. Just because one of the conditionalities of the program is attending exams regularly. So there's a control about that. Well, to finish, some social challenges. In terms of social inequality, okay, first of all, education. Bolsa Familia is great, it's good, it works. There are some critics, okay, but it reaches the objective, the goal. It's combat poverty and hunger and famines and extreme poverty. The second leg, to invest in the human capital of the family, depends of a good educational system. It's not a Bolsa Familia problem. And in case of Brazil, just to mention two problems: how to reach the middle of the desert, the middle of the forest, and actually how to reach people in the big cities, in the favelas, for example. And second point, how to improve quality in such a huge country population. We can, give quality to São Paulo, the richest city, blah blah blah, all that have all the conditions to have a good educational system. Everything, know-how, money is and it's very bad. It's very bad. But I'm an optimistic person. In the report, sorry, there are blank, but there was a report regarding education in the world involving 76 countries, and PISA report.
Yeah.
And Brazil was one of the countries that improved the most in the last 10 years. So, well, it takes a long time to have a good educational system. And the second point, are the social policies sustainable in the long term? They are. As far as we keep putting money on that, you know. The people today, the beneficiaries, they don't have no condition to survive by themselves. No condition, you know. At the most, they'll be they work in the, I don't know, cleaning houses. Their sons, you know, the children that are going to school today, in 10 years, they're not going to be in conditions to dispute the best places in the market. Forget about it. Maybe in 10 years, in 20 years, we have a good educational system that can provide to the poor people, or to the classes B, C, and D, and E, conditions to dispute good places in the market. So, in terms of sustainability, there's a long way, mainly linked to the educational improvements. And yeah, and that's it. And poverty is not just a matter of income. This is a huge debate in itself. I work with the concept of capabilities approach. So it's a totally different approach regarding poverty, development, and it's linked to the possibilities one person has to decide about their future. In the day that every person in Brazil has the possibility of deciding what to do and having the conditions to do it, of course, with the study and so on. But when every person has this condition to, okay, I want to be a doctor, I want to make a PhD. But we don't have this situation. And this, in my opinion, is our social life, our social gap. Well, almost perfect. This is our social gap, and I don't believe that in 20 or 30 years we're going to be a real developed country.